Hey everybody. Hopefully the YouTube video is starting off right now. But yeah, welcome. Just wanted to get this video rolling together. Don't have a channel name or anything, but just to get four people who all got the same uh, type in the objective personality system together. And yeah, see kind of like where we're similar, where we're different. Discuss typology in general, interests, life, yada yada. Yeah, so let me just go around roundtable and introduce just everybody. So I'm Dallas, and then we have Jesse, Lucas, and Zach here. Thanks guys for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's see. Beat a lot of anecdotes coming on here to make this work. We got Don't Control Me Bro, Mope, Observer Issues, Demon SI, Blast, and Internet crashing last time, which actually did happen. So good job. We all made it.
Check.
Yeah. For sure. It's so yeah, I guess we could just jump into it and let's see. Get going on here. So okay. Yeah, so I guess the first question that I would have would be um so what's your experience like in typology in general? When did you get into it? How long have you been into the game? What systems do you like? And then how do you feel about your OP result? And let's start with Jesse.
All right. So I first got into typology a few years ago when my dad first took the test, and then he got INFJ, and he was happy with that because it was the rarest one. It said he was, yeah. So then I took it. My sister took it. I got ENTP. She got ENFP, and then I stuck with that for a few years. And then kind of stopped towards when I was like 16 or something, and then got back into it about 2 years ago, and then basically discovered objective personality about 2 years ago, and then just stuck with it since then.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, how do you feel about the type that you got? Do you largely agree? Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let's go clockwise. Zach, same question. What's your experience with typology in general, systems you like, systems, and how you feel about your OP type, and what your thoughts?
So I started with typology, I guess, for the first time probably 12 years ago, 13 years ago. It was in high school. I had a psychology class, and we did a little personality test in there, and I was kind of fascinated since then. I don't remember what I got as a result in that class, but I do remember years after that taking other tests, and I would usually get ENTP. So that's what I was convinced of for about 8 years. Yeah, and then the typing from OP, I don't really agree with it for mine. I can see where it makes sense in some ways, but I don't think it's quite right for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Let's see, and then Lucas.
Hey, so I've been into typology since maybe I was, I don't know, 20. I got really into it when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And now I'm 30, so I guess it's probably 8 or 9 years. I always scored ENTP as well, like Jesse. And eventually started getting ENFP at some point where you're still in that phase where if you take a test, you're different. It's like, oh man,
Hmm.
you actually have to go through some self growth to become different. You can't just take a test a different day. But I didn't know that at the time. I just would go to the various things, and then I found C.S. Joseph, and he was the first guy to kind of really systematize it in a way that made sense to me. And then after C.S. Joseph, I have a very brief stint with him trying to figure out his typology grid and all that. I found Dave, and the way he described saviors and demons, I'd never conceptualized that before or heard of anyone conceptualize that. And it really fascinated me, and something like drew me to it as being true. I don't know, I can't really tell you what. Probably his self assuredness, like how sure he. I don't know. I have always been like kind of attracted to people that are very sure of themselves.
Hmm.
And most of my friends are that way. I try to be that way. And so I guess Dave's way of speaking kind of made me feel like he knew what he was talking about. And eventually, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've begun to understand it and see it myself. And even if it's not a perfect picture of reality, it's at least one that you can see all over play out around you. It's not like it's hidden or like hard to see once you know what you're looking for. It's like music or the alphabet or anything. Once you understand the pattern, you can see it. It just took me a really long time to understand it. So I guess I would say I'm like really bought into OP. Like I guess of all the systems that I've found, I don't feel like I've finally gotten to the first place where I feel like I don't need to look anymore, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Nice. And as for myself, got into typology in high school. I got INFJ, identified as an INFJ basically all the way up until objective personality. I think anyone that has met me in real life would never call me an extrovert. I definitely don't fit the classical definition of such. As for other typology systems, I've done the Enneagram as well, bounced a little bit between Enneagram 1 and Enneagram 9, a lot of the gut types on there. Yeah, as for objective personality, I think I'm pretty confident on my order, at least that I was pretty confident on my order of NFTS, at least for the MBTI, and then getting my objective personality result. I mistyped myself 2 coins towards the end of it. I thought I was going to be a decider. And then I also thought that I was going to be demon play. I think I see my hesitation in asking people for things a lot, and thought that manifested into demon play, but ended up getting this result. I think it largely fits. There's certain aspects of objective personality I'm not too jazzed about, but I think some of the larger components of it and some of the Tony Robbins components of it, for example, I can see like demon blast in myself very easily, and I can see a consume addiction, and I think I just tend to have maybe I'm a little bit like removed from typology in a way, but I still kind of pick and choose things that make sense to me on that. So, okay, yeah. So, how do you think, like, so when you were a kid and were you growing up, like, do you feel like the person that you were when you were a kid is similar or different to who you are now? Like, how did that transition go? Do you think you would have typed yourself the same way as a teenager? And yeah, I guess we could, instead of going kind of clockwise roundabout, we can be more freeform. But yeah, anyone who wants to take that one on? Is a structure needed?
I think so, because I want to chime in at the top every time, but I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind this time just because I already started talking. I would say that when I was a kid, I was a lot more abrasive and less opinionated, just because I knew less. I didn't have as many things to be opinionated about. But now I find myself to be on a daily basis a very opinionated person, and it's one of the things I'm not necessarily trying to change the fact that I'm opinionated, because I think it's fine to have not like judgments on things, but I think it's good to know what it is you like and what you care about. But I don't like complaining so much. I've recently become more aware of how much my being opinionated causes me to complain. And so I'm trying to change that, along with a bunch of other stuff. So as a kid, I guess I would say that I was less developed in the sense of not my behavior was more conventional. And as I
Mm.
got older, I kind of learned to get out of my shell and stop giving a shit what other people think. And it's really hard, but I feel like
Yeah.
it's been very rewarding because I can like pretend with my kids and stuff. And I think even a year ago that was almost impossible for me.
Yeah,
Like I
for
felt
sure.
so controlled by my ego. So
Yeah. Oh man, when I was a teenager, I think the way my parents described me was that I was a self-righteous little shit and I had a stick up my ass because I was really like I had really hardline stances on like a lot of things that I cared about. Like when I was a teenager, I was straight edge, so I was very staunchly against like alcohol and drug consumption, and I was very opinionated, I think, and way more combative than I think I am now. I think my 20s really kind of chilled me out as a person, and I've sort of noticed a flow a little bit. Like in my teenage years, I was very combative, very opinionated about things. In my 20s, I got much less so, and then I've noticed sort of a dip or like a resurgence a little bit as I've maybe been finding kind of the way, not necessarily from a combativeness perspective, but a way to kind of articulate my points to other people in a way that lands. Yeah.
Mm.
What about you, Jesse? Zach?
When I was a kid, I was um, I was very quiet, like self-contained, self-controlled kid that was just thinking all the time. Like I'd build these contraptions out of Legos and stuff like that, but
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't really talk to anyone much otherwise.
Hmm.
Like and like including other kids. I just wanted I was a quiet kid. As I going through my 20s, I've opened up quite a bit.
Hmm.
So that part's changed quite a lot. Um but yeah, I was very quiet, just very quiet, self-contained. Um in um my teen years I was pretty rebellious, but it was not in like an outwardly rebellious way. It was kind of just in a um I'm gonna do whatever I want kind of way.
Hmm.
Where
Yeah.
I remember I remember one time I got in trouble for something and I was grounded. So my mindset then was like, okay, I'll just leave in the middle of the night then. And that's how
That's yeah, so that's the thing too. Like I feel like a lot of my friends at the age wouldn't have said like I was like a traditionally rebellious person, but I found so many ways to like get around things and like just not tell people or just get away with like getting out and leaving or just doing what I wanted anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to just wander off at 3 a.m. in the morning because I was bored.
Dude, I'm like that's the thing that I would do all the time. I would fucking it'd be 2 a.m. and I would just get this like I don't know, urge or impulse, and I'd fucking throw on some music and go walk, like run down a dirt road with like some fucking screamo music and just like spin around and dance like in the middle of the night and just like do that at like 2 or 3 in the morning and like not hanging out with anybody, just doing my own thing and like come back and be like, I don't know, it was like this weird feeling of having like this like secret life in a lot of ways that a lot of people didn't know
Mm.
about. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind
I
of
don't relate to that at all. Personally.
really.
No, I was more of a social, but I don't remember. My only thing about being isolated and separate was when I was in my early to mid 20s before I got married and I kind of lost the privilege. I used to, after I would finish work for the weekend, I would just kind of go home and stay in my room for 2 or 3 days, just coming out to eat and use the bathroom and stuff. And I would just go back into my room and play games or watch stuff or do whatever I want. But it wasn't that. I guess it took me until I was. Maybe it's just that parents are different, but my parents would never let me walk out of the house at 3 in the morning. Like it just.
Oh yeah,
That's
for sure.
fun. So I don't know. For me, it took until my 20s, but then like the way that I expressed it is just I have a room, I have a place. Why would I want to be somewhere else? This is the place where I feel comfortable and I want to be. So I'm not
Mhm.
going to go walk around. I want to be here.
Yeah, one thing that when we had a brief conversation a few months ago, Lucas, that I thought was pretty funny was you were talking to me about your wife and like running you're running a party of some kind, and how like you're notorious for just like leaving like
Yeah.
parties that you've started,
Even
or
ones that
like
I'm hosting. Yeah.
yeah, even ones that you're hosting where you'll like hang out with people a little bit and you'll be like, yeah, all right, I'm done. Just sort of
Yep.
like
Yep. The ego gets exhausted and it can't do it anymore. It just
mhm.
goes like, I want to go home, and then I'm already home, so I want to go to my room or go to the bathroom to recharge for like 5 minutes and then go back out and pretend some more.
Yeah. I
I'm
feel
getting
like
better at it though, where I don't feel like I have to pretend. So
yeah, I feel like
I can.
I'll do that where I'll have like these little bursts of like being able to talk to people, and I might come off as more, social or gregarious or something, and then just like immediately after it's just like I'll hit this wall and be like, no, I'm done, and like so it's so super like on and off when it comes to like hanging out with people for me. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. So let's see on here. One thing that I've gathered about all of us, I think, is are we all musicians
Yeah.
of some
Yeah.
kind or some shape or form? I know. So I play like guitar and bass, and I think you play in a church band, right, Lucas?
Yeah.
And then I know Zach, I think I've seen a video of you like screaming, like you do like that, like black metal screams.
Hmm.
And then Jesse, do you play anything, or
Yeah.
is your family?
Yeah, guitar. Pretty. I love my granddad, and my mum all play guitar. So
Yeah, when it comes to when it comes to music and sort of like your creative pursuits, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you go all in on one particular area, or do you feel more like a jack of all trades?
I go all in particular areas. Like I'll pick one thing, maybe two, and just
Hmm. Yeah, like is it a like what are some of your all in like hobbies or passions?
software development is an all
Software.
in. Yeah, and
Okay.
I've been doing that since I was pretty young. So I think it's been a lot of years by now.
Nice.
Uh,
What do you code in? Because I'm a software developer as well.
uh, I mean, I've used a lot of different languages at different times. Right now,
Mhm.
I'm mostly doing web development, so that's mostly
Yeah.
the usual stuff that comes with that.
Yeah, for sure.
JavaScript, of course, a lot of front end development lately.
Hmm. Nice. I'm predominantly C sharp, but I'm doing a lot of like Unity for. I'm trying to do like a game development program, but yeah, it's What about you, Jesse? Do you feel like when it comes to like your hobbies or interests, do you feel like you're like really all in on certain things, or do you feel like more of a jack?
uh, I definitely like go all in. Like when I'm paying it, but it lasts like 2 weeks, and then it's something else.
Like you have short bursts of like
Yeah, exactly.
passionate devotion on things, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm done." Yeah. What about you, Lucas?
Yeah. I'm starting to realize that me and Jesse are the most similar here, because dude, my biggest issue right now is that. So I don't know. I think I briefly talked to Dallas about this, but I got laid off from my job of like basically my whole life a few months ago, like a few weeks ago, actually, like
Uh-huh.
almost 1 month ago. And I really, it's like I had this assumption that I would be able to apply my mind towards whatever was I was using at work, I'd be able to go and just point it at something else. Because when
Hmm.
I got home from work, I was just tired all the time, and I couldn't really do anything besides consume. That's all I had left at the end of the day, was just like, well, I blasted, I played, I slept all day. Time to go consume. And my family was like, please, we need a father. And I was like, fine, fine.
Yeah.
But that two things. One, that makes me feel really guilty that I feel like I should be having a certain. It's like you imagine that you're gonna behave a certain way when you get to a certain point, and it's like it never occurred to me that I had to build it. I thought it would just kind of emerge,
Hmm.
like teens and like being willing to like stupid stuff. Like today, I went with my kids to the. I know this is not answering your question at all, and I'm so sorry, Dallas. I went to get donuts, and I wanted to just go through the drive-through, but I was like, no, kids should get to go in and pick their donuts.
Hmm.
And I had this like fight with myself for like 10 minutes on the way there. And I was just like, self, shut up. We're taking them in to get donuts. This is a thing kids like. Like, if I was a kid, what would I want to do? I would want to go in and I would want to see them and I want to pick the donuts. So I'm not going to go through the drive-thru. That's so lame. I'm not going to be a lame dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, so with the all-in thing, my trouble is that I can't go all in. I have a really hard time. Really,
Mhm.
really, really hard time. I'm very indecisive. I used to be much more decisive, and now I just have a really hard time, and I just vacillate and go all between all these different things. So in the past, the answer to your question would have been yes. I do go all in. I had a lot of all in hobbies before. Now I'm struggling to apply myself in the same way that I used to. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's just growing up.
Yeah, for me, I found that when it comes to hobbies, like I laughed a little bit at Jesse's got that sounds a little bit like me with things that I'll be very there are certain things that I have stuck with and they've been with me for a long ass time, which probably means I should build on those. But like I'll do Dungeons and Dragons all day. Like I fucking love like world building and creative stuff like that. And I've had my music hobbies a little bit has been more of I would say like a jack of all trades thing. But yeah, I tend to like I feel like I have to really really like align my identity with something and push myself really hard on something, which is why I thought for a long time I thought I was a decider because I found for myself that when I imagine some sort of me against the world scenario when it comes to a hobby that I'm doing or a goal that I'm trying to achieve, whether that's like fitness or building something. It's almost kind of like if I have this like idea in my head of that somebody thinks I can't do it, I like shove on myself more and more to be able to do it. And it's sort of like this like really antagonistic like, and then I'll eventually show them like, you know, kind of thing, which is why I thought I was a decider. But yeah,
I
I
relate.
think yeah. Otherwise, I tend to be kind of I'll get these like really short bursts of energy for things, and be really into it. Like I was something random, you know, fucking consume random personal anecdote, but I I crushed like 5 hours of Swedish last week for no reason. So no, I have, and but like I'll be in something and I'll just do something really passionately for a short period of time and I'll drop it. But yeah.
Do you guys go hard into like any really hippie stuff? Meaning like I've been working on like hypnotherapy and stuff like that. Do y'all do anything like that where you just like find something that whenever you were a kid everyone said, "Oh god, that's so stupid. You should never like everyone who does that is stupid or crazy." And then you do it and you're like, "Oh my god, I like this a lot. Why did I listen to any of those people for 25 years or whatever?"
Yeah.
Have you ever related to that?
You look like you have something to say, Zach.
Um, sort of, yeah. There's actually a lot of concepts that you could call like hippie concepts that I'm very interested in. Mostly those they're not really like hippie things, like hippie activities. It's more like just concepts, but um, those mostly stem from I guess you could say philosophy for me, and some of the conclusions that I've come to are very very hippie-ish. I don't really do anything. It's like activities that are hippie-ish. So I don't really have any like practices like that that I would call that, but more so just like ideas and perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah. For myself, I don't feel like there's anything too traditionally hippie about myself. That's a archetype that didn't land with me when it came to the at least the way the NF is represented. I think the things about me that are like maybe you would if I were to describe them, then they would be more like traditionally hippie, are kind of weird sort of personal beliefs that I've come to and ways that I've encapsulated the world in, you know, in something that wouldn't make sense necessarily to anybody else, or like it's so much using my own like internal framework or something. Like I think one of the like to give an example of that, one of the ideas that I've always kind of had for myself, and I don't even know if this is, I wouldn't call it like a religion or anything, but like a philosophy or something. I've had this archetype of where it's kind of like I see myself in a lot of ways. It's like multiple different versions of myself centered around like a round table, and I see myself, and it's always like snapshots of myself. Like there's me as a kid, there's me as there's me as a teenager and everything that he represented and everything that he cared about, me as a kid, all those things, me when I was 20. And then it's also sitting there with future aspects of myself, and it's kind of like this like internal congruency of like, are we all aligned, are we on a path, like what is it that we care about, and kind of like what's important to us. Am I who, like, is this going against this identity, and like, am I internally congruent? And like it's kind of got these like whimsical, or not whimsical, but like I guess it's got like a hippie tone to it, maybe a little bit, but I don't know. It's weird because I'll have like multiple projections of myself of like what I think I would look like when I was like 70 or something, and that's probably the most like mystical hippie thing I would say about myself. When it comes to like tarot or things like that, I like Jungian archetypes, kind of comes with the territory of being in typology, but yeah, I was never really into like crystals or like tarot seriously.
Yeah, me neither. And but what's interesting is I have an ST sister-in-law who's been typed SETE, who loves that kind of stuff. So I think it's something to do with whether you're a savior or a demon in OP, whether you gravitate towards it because it feels natural to you or because it's fascinating to you.
Mm-hmm.
Where like it doesn't feel fascinating to play rain sounds in the background, right? There's nothing fascinating about that, but it makes me feel
calming.
Like what? But like, I talk about how I make soundscapes at home so that I feel certain ways whenever I want to, and I feel like nobody else does that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I not seeing other people do that? Like, if it helps me, it's so weird that it doesn't help other people. But I guess that's FI, right? Like, the stuff that I like is not going to be. It's because when I was a kid, I had some bad dream and I woke up and it was raining outside and I felt better, and I don't know, who knows where it comes from, but it's some FI root, right? That says like this thing makes you feel better, and you just dance with the chemicals. I don't know. So for me, the hippie stuff is just stuff that I had written off for 20 years because it was bullshit. It would never work. Like chiropraxy or brain. I don't do any of that stuff, but I'm saying it's like those things where it's like, oh, it's just, that's not true. That's hippie. That's wrong. That's dumb. And now I'm realizing like, man, why did I listen to these people for so long? Like I should have just seen what was good. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't regret anything.
Yeah.
Or I try not to. Like, I don't regret in the sense that, like, I would ever change something because I like where I am. It's, I guess I regret as, like, a sense of, like, if, like, I guess not in the I don't know how to describe it. Like, I wouldn't want to change it, but at the same time, I wish I could.
Yeah. Do you see, like, it's like, it's like you see, like, multiple different permutations of how your life could have been. Like, well, I'll see myself at like fixed points, and then there's kind of like an expansion point of something of like, I don't know. And I want to like capture your answer, Jesse, about the NF hippie question before I move on. But yeah, I had some thoughts on that.
So my dad was like mega hippie. So I just kind of just inherited the hippiness.
Yeah. Is it more of like an aesthetic, or is there something like philosophical about it for you? Or
yeah, my dad like had a blog called like Philosophical Ramblings or something like that. So it's interest that I just picked up off him.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm just like grabbing random questions. I like put like 50 down. So there's something funny that when I was talking to you, Zach, a while back, it was about like Blast and how like, at least the concept of Blast then, how it comes off for me. And it seemed like for you as like a stern dad lecture, I think is the phrasing that you used for it. Yeah. Do you, I'm trying to think of how to encapsulate that question. Like, do you feel like your blast manifests that way? When you're explaining things to people, do you feel like there's an incongruency with how you perceive that you're coming off versus how you actually are?
Incongruency in terms of like temperament.
Yeah. So for example, for me, I think I my own like personal perception of myself. I always feel like I'm coming off as way more intense than I actually am. Like I'll have like conversations with people afterwards, and I'll message them and I'll be like, hey, I feel like I was kind of being a little aggressive. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And they're like, you weren't being aggressive at all. Like, yeah,
Yeah, so I actually get that a little bit both ways. So one at times, yeah, I could think that I'm coming across very intense, and then I'm not. Other times, um, this happens a lot if I'm explaining something like something that's kind of complex, then I can come across very serious in my explanation of it, which a lot of people interpret as, I don't know, frustration or
yeah,
something. Now in my head, I'm like, I'm good. I'm not.
yeah. That's funny. I've had people when I'm explaining things tell me I come, yeah, irritated. They say you look like, you're like, why you look like you're just mad at me, but like you don't sound mad at me, but you like look mad at me. And I'm like, I'm totally neutral. Like I'm just explaining something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Jesse? Does your how does your blast come off, or how do you feel like it comes off with other people?
I don't think I talk often enough for people to say anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely like very different from how it is in my head. That's about as
I relate to that, Jesse. I feel like for me, the clarity that I have mentally has never once been accurately articulated out of my mouth. I've done a decent job writing it before, decent job, like a B plus. But if I feel like I have some S tier thought and I want to communicate it, it's gonna come out in like a D tier way. But if I write it, it might be like a B or a B plus. Like it's okay because I take time and I go back and I edit it and I change it and I fix it and then I read it like as if I was reading it on the internet or something, and I go, okay, yeah, this is clear. I understand what I'm saying. And then people are still like, this makes no sense. And I'm like, damn it, man. But so for me, blast, when it does manifest, is when I see it in my life, it's very much this like with my kids or with my wife, it's like this like, what should you be doing that? Like, is that a good idea? I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you what to do because I don't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't look right. That doesn't seem right to me. And I recently I've been trying not to complain as much, and so I'm just kind of in this like, what do I say anything? Like, should I speak? And I just don't know. And so usually I just like get frustrated and leave the scenario that's stressing me out instead of trying to articulate it. Or if I want to explain something to somebody that's like a very like a ST details thing, right? Like here's how you set up, pretend like I was guiding you through how to set up this stream. It would, my boss hated how I did it. He was an ST saver, 99% sure. He hated how I would write instructions because he was like, dude, no one knows what any of this is, that this is all context from your head that nobody else has. And it's like it never occurred to me, and it's so embarrassing, but it never occurred to me that I needed to make myself understood in a way that other people would understand. I just thought if I articulate myself as best as I can, that's the most I can be held responsible for. If you want me to if you want me to articulate myself in a way that you're going to understand, that is such a high bar. I have no idea how to do that. I don't know how to emulate how you're going to be reading this. I don't know how to just ignore all the context I have and take on this rookie mindset. It's really difficult for me. I don't know why. It has anything to do with my type or my upbringing or my work experience, but it was always very challenging until he told me, he said, what if you write it like a recipe, you know? what if you put the steps like a recipe? And then it clicked for me. It was like once I got the clear concept, it clicked. Am I frozen on y'all's screen too?
No,
Yeah.
no,
My
everyone's
screen is frozen solid. Okay. But yeah, so that's, I guess, my answer. Blast is very difficult for me. And the only way I've ever been able to do it in a halfway decent way is by copying people who are skilled at it or taking their advice, doing it exactly like that. And that's it. I've never been able to bring it forth from within, I guess.
Okay.
Can I jump in again real quick?
You look like you had something to say.
Yeah, that was really interesting to me to hear because for me explaining like articulating things in a way that they can come out clearly is something that for me is pretty easy. What isn't easy for me is more like the tone of things. But like concepts, I don't know if you've heard this concept of the curse of knowledge, but it's basically the concept is that it can be tough to understand or know what other people don't know when you're explaining something.
Mm-hmm.
When I explain things, I tend to have a fairly easy time seeing what presuppositions my understanding of something is based on, and seeing how to kind of like reconstruct an understanding in another person that has not previously thought of an idea or stages of process, something like that. So that's something that I'm very good at doing. The tone of things when I'm explaining stuff to people is where I'm just totally lost. Because it's like, I put so much seriousness into that part that I just explained, and then, that can come across as like this tension, and, so that it's that other realm of that where I flounder quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting what you were saying there, Lucas, because it actually seemed like a kind of like an opposite thing almost.
No, I related to the first part of what you said, at least. The first part about the curse of knowledge, the way I would articulate that is something like, I don't want to make you feel like I think you're stupid by explaining it to you like a kid, right? So I'm going to explain it like you know what I know, because I don't think you're stupid. So I assume you have some base level of knowledge that you're going to understand what I'm saying. And I'm wrong over and over again. And it's never because they are stupid. It's because they have different information than me. And I can't, in my head, separate the difference between their information that they have and the sense of whenever I don't have the information, I feel stupid. Whenever I hear somebody talking over my head, I feel stupid. I don't want to make other people feel that way. So I'm like vibe checking all the time, right? Like, I'm not going to try to make you feel dumb. So I'm going to explain at a high level. And then if you ask a question, I'll answer it.
Interesting. I am definitely, that's something I pride myself on, is being able to figure out how somebody else would have come to some information. And I'm very good at absorbing other people's perspectives and seeing that I mean, because that's a lot of what I do, software development. I do automation as well. And a lot of like, I just feel like that's not a skill that I've always had, is being able to see the way that somebody else is going to fuck something up. So like they're walking through something and it's just like, that person is not going to, I'll get frustrated, I think, with people when I feel like a definition of something is incomplete, because I can see the way that somebody else will take certain pieces of information and come to a completely different conclusion about it. And I think where I struggle with is explaining things that I have not chewed on. So off the cuff explanations. I sort of relate that to Demon Play Blast, where if I haven't really thought about something, I don't like stream of consciousness, like kind of explaining myself. But if I've chewed on something, if I've really processed it, if I've really owned it, I tend to feel like I explain things extremely well. And I feel like I tend to see where other people are going to have gaps in explanations. And I do try to make, I think maybe as I've been in objective personality and I've seen, well, if you're Demon Blast and you're Demon ST, then you're going to struggle with either getting people on board or explaining your thoughts. I've almost kind of taken that as a mastery point for myself to be able to be like, no, I am going to explain things clearly. People are going to understand me when I talk.
That's really
Yeah.
good. I actually like that perspective, man. I really like. I want to kind of adopt that. That's a really good way of thinking.
Yeah, something that I've used as a tool for that, at least when it comes to writing too, because I've always thought that writing was more of a strong suit that I've had than speaking.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I relate.
like I'll use like Hemingway app, like where I'll look at things that I've written and cut out filler words and make it just as like punchy and direct as possible, so people just get the information and they get what they need to do, and it's not like floundering on my part or me kind of pontificating on a thought that is full of my own like personal experiences that aren't relevant to them. Yeah. And how do you feel on that? Like, Jesse, do you feel like you are good at explaining things to people? Do you feel like you can articulate your thoughts easily, or do you feel like you struggle with separating your own personal experiences from other people's perspectives?
Yeah, well, you guys were saying that you do better with writing. I don't, because I have a phobia of writing.
Oh,
It's
A phobia of writing? Like, if I don't want to make you
Yeah.
go into
no, that's all good.
Yeah, interesting. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you have an easier time with audio or like explaining things verbally?
No, it's just that for whatever
Can't explain.
reason, my brain decided to be afraid of it.
Oh, I see. Interesting. Okay. Is that like is that like a kinesthetic process, or does that translate to like typing as well? Like physical
Yeah,
typing?
typing as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. See, I've never heard of that. Yeah.
Neither had I.
Yeah. So let's see. What is a reoccurring life struggle of yours? Like, what do you, if you could encapsulate like the problem that gives you the most grief in your life, or what gets in your way the most, what would it be?
can I have two answers?
Sure.
Okay. I feel like I don't get out of my own way. I just get off thinking about why I can't do it or why it's not going to work. I'm like a no machine. Like, you know how they say TI is a nope machine or whatever?
Yeah, that was immediately I
I'm
thought
more
of
like this won't work. Like why won't it work? I don't know. I can't figure out how to make it work, so it won't work. And it's like I don't know how to make most stuff work. So I just assume most stuff isn't going to work. So that's one of my things is I just have a self-limiting thing about being able to make stuff work if I don't already know how to make it work.
Mhm.
And so that's been challenging. Another one is that I can't stay focused on a specific discipline. So like I'm like how you guys talk about software development or whatever. I've done like 30 different things. I was a video producer, a sound engineer, IT professional. I did a little bit of like sysadmin. I was a fleet manager for computers most recently. I was a video engineer. I've done so many different things that it's hard for me to now completely just drop all of that and be like, okay, I'm going to go a completely different direction. I'm going to work on these things that are challenging for me. Like that's my desire, right? I want to be a public speaker. That's what I want to do. Ultimately in the future. And there's so many challenges to overcome to do that effectively for me. And I think that's why I aspire to it, because it works out so many. I would have to work out so many kinks to make it happen that it's like a big dream, if that makes sense. Like I don't know how to talk in front of people. I don't know how to remember anything. That's a huge challenge for me. But I'm learning, right? I'm doing like some online courses to work on my memory. But just various things that like make public speaking challenging, along with the idea of like, well, what do I have to offer people that is worth them listening to? You know, what I know that's worth telling somebody. That's another like insecurity point. Like I know how much I know because I've seen it play out multiple times, but I don't know what of that stuff that I know that's valuable to other people. I have no FE, right?
Sure.
I just don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's going to help you. I only know what helped me. And I guess I struggle with knowing. A big challenge for me is both of those things in a kind of a harmonic sense of like, I don't believe I can do it. And then it's such a high dream that I just always feel stuck in place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I have
Yeah.
mindset issues and I have motivation issues. So I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah. What about you, Jesse? Like, what do you think, if you could encapsulate your kind of like your biggest life like struggle?
Talking, I guess.
Talking?
Sounds about right.
Just kind of like just in general, like from a socialization perspective, or from
Yeah.
like yeah.
Just all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Let me see. And then okay. For later. What about you, Zach?
I think mine is somewhere in the realm of disorganization. Yeah. So I mean, I can do the, this is where I don't even think I have SI at all, and I think I have NI.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this like forward vision, kind of thing. Like very often I'll have ambitions that go pretty far into the future,
Mm-hmm.
and once I'm kind of locked onto something, it's like I'll do whatever I need to do to get there, right?
Yeah.
In the meantime, what I won't do, well, what I'll try to do but kind of suck at doing, is I won't be caught up on my dishes, or my car needs its oil changed, or
Mm-hmm.
like just those random things that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm constantly kind of doing the bare minimum with those things, and I'm putting all my effort towards these like pointed ambitions that I'm focused on.
Mm-hmm. Like a very like seeing like like the ideal vision or of what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and then kind of like it's almost like, what's the phrase, being farsighted, where it's almost, or you'll have like binocular vision and you'll be able to look forward, but then you'll like trip over something in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting, cool. Yeah, for myself, it's definitely steps, getting steps onto the things that I want to do, because I'll see what will happen with me a lot of the times is I'll see permutations of aspects of myself that I would want to be. I can see myself really diving into my musical career. I can see myself diving into game programming, multiple different identities that I can try on for myself and see myself like in a very like futuristic and looking towards their step. And it's like this feeling of I really do know what I need to do in a lot of those cases. It just fucking sucks. It just like I don't want to do it. I don't want to put in the little like atomic habits, tiny bits of time on them, because I get really and this is maybe where I would relate the most to being an EP, is not on the traditional like don't control me bro sense. I don't feel like if in some cases yes, but in a lot of cases I'm not traditionally like that. For me, I get really anxious about the idea of closing down doors in my life, where it's almost like I'll see it like a video game a little bit of like and like I'm really bad about this when it comes to video games. If I know there's something called a true ending, like I will be very fixated on getting that, because I don't want something that is like, it's like if I'm going to align myself towards this entire idea, towards this whole ideology, towards this and this, like I'm gonna die, I'm gonna be at the end of my life, and I'm gonna look down, and this is the identity that I chose for myself, and this is the thing that I wanted. Am I going to be happy? Am I going to be happy at the steps that I did? And there's this constant anxiety I think I have about closing doors in my life on things that prevents me from making little bits of progress on things that I want to do. So really a realization point that I've had for myself recently is narrowing down on things that I care about and trying to axe and kill off. It does feel like killing something in a way. Like I'm killing off certain identities that I have. I'm killing off certain possibilities, and locking down and kind of like falling in love a little bit with the control of it, of basically being, these are the 5 things I want to do with my life. And I need to do them, and I need to expunge and push away other things that don't matter, because one of my biggest devils in that case are minor interests, because they're always so fat. They're fascinating. They seem interesting. It's like, oh, I could do that. And it's always that. I relate it to the double masculine consume of, and NE of trying on so many different hats that I have, and basically being like, but is this the right one? Is this the right concept? Is this the right identity that I'm going to have? And it's that addiction to kind of like frame switching, or like switching the sort of person that I would be, as opposed to locking down on one and trusting the process and doing the steps.
Dude, Dallas, I've been thinking about this for like weeks. This exact thing you're talking about. I was thinking of it like hot swapping a cartridge in a video game. I was literally talking to my wife about this yesterday. Like literally changing in the middle. Instead of being like I was talking to her about like how I want to be different in certain areas. And I was like, I don't want to like have to move and like reset my whole life. I want to be able to change exactly where I'm at, exactly without changing my sensory. I want to change my intuition. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to change my patterns while not changing my location or my family. I want to be able to change my behaviors. And another thing what you were saying is that I relate to this idea of like catch and release. Like I've been on a hook, with whatever thing I've been attached to. It's got me. It's trapped me. And I want to just swim. Mm-hmm. I want to just move. I don't want to feel like I'm trapped. And so I remember like when I got let go, obviously I was devastated, but at the same time, I remember feeling like I'm so happy that I'm released from this. I don't have to feel like I have to finish all this stuff out that I didn't want to do. I don't feel like I have to be the person that they expected me to be anymore. Like, I don't know. It was like a mask that was glued on my face, and I was able to, I haven't done it yet, but I'm slowly able to remove pieces of it, if that makes sense. And so, dude, I big relate to everything you just said. I'm probably going to go back and watch the video of this later and think about it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. Let me see. If you could narrow down your identity to 5 categories, what would those be? And let's start with Jesse. Yeah. Or if you need some time to think, we can pivot.
Yeah, maybe pivot for a bit.
Okay. Does somebody have the answer to that one?
Yeah, I always have. That's my superpower. I always know what I think about everything.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so just five categories. Mm-hmm. I'm a storyteller. Not in the SI sense, I love seeing different stories and then actually hearing them, and then so when I did video, I loved telling stories.
Storyteller.
I am for sure a musician in the sense that like the idea of music is very alluring to me. The patterns within patterns that can change people's emotions, like that's so powerful. It's such a bizarre thing, and I love it. I don't know, just the fact that music exists at all is fascinating to me. So that's 2. I would say tech enthusiast. I really love learning about new emerging technologies, like, I don't know, electric car. I mean, this is an old one, but I used to be fascinated with electric cars, fascinated with, fake meats, for example.
Wait, hold on.
I love alternative.
Go back. You said electric cars and then fake meats? Sorry.
Yeah, like vegan meat. Like I love this idea of a future where I don't have to cause suffering anymore.
Oh, okay.
Foods that I like. I don't know.
Okay.
So gotcha. I really get into the idea of like fake meats. And then another one would be like shit, man, I don't even know what I was gonna say, but I'll just give you a different one. I love like psychology, like understanding the mind, understanding how other people's minds work, like figuring out what this whole thing is.
So
Like,
like
what are we?
a psychologist.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, man, I had a good one, but I can't remember. I don't know. I just think of myself a bit like a collector of concepts, a collector of cute, cool things that I like. I think in the future I would be like an eclectic like person with a lot of different tastes and different things. I don't see myself ever zeroing in like you're describing in your past prompt, but I know it's what I need. It's not how I visualize myself or see myself that way.
Mm-hmm.
I see myself very broadly.
Do you have the answer to that one for yourself, Zach?
I don't know if I could give 5 categories. There's like just a few categories I tend to be very focused on. And they all kind of like circle around similar purposes in terms of like how and why I want to use those things. I'd say analytical for one, and that's where you get a lot of like engineering stuff from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's philosophy and psych, which for me are not really. It would take me a long time to go into why this is. I'll spare our time with that for now. But
do you separate those, or is philosophy and psych congruent in your head for those categories?
All right, I'll go into a little bit. When I was a kid, like since I was very young, I think like 10 years old, I had started wondering why reality exists, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Or as a kid, I was trying to figure out like why is any of this? What the hell is like what's happened? Like why? It's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. So I was always trying to figure it out. And then at some point, I got to this point where I had realized that in asking the questions about what reality is,
mm-hmm.
I would have to also start to ask questions about my own mind as the only, my own mind is the only thing I've ever really seen, objectively speaking. And so when asking questions about reality, I realized that I also need to start asking questions about the thing that is asking the questions in the first place. And so that kind of dawned an interest in psychology. So philosophy and psychology are pretty like interlinked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're the same thing, but the purpose behind them is very very related.
Yeah, I see why you connect both of them.
Yeah, and then third category I put musician, which I gotta write lyrics and that even ties back into those other things as well as kind of still part of the same kind of like unified intention behind it, because like even the lyrics that I write are in that kind of philosophical psychological kind of realm of things to express through lyrics points and insights that I've picked up over the years about these kinds of things. Those are the main things that I would say as categories, and that was
3.
That was 3, and 2 of them were merged together. So
you get 3.5.
3.5, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's 5's pretty brutal. Yeah, no, I just pulled the number out of my ass. But what about? Do you have any answers for us, Jesse? Do you or any?
I was going to go with musician, philosophers, and skating as well, or something.
Skating.
Yeah.
Do you skate?
Yeah.
Like skateboarding or like rollerblading or?
I
don't know a lot about skating.
I have a very specific kind of board. It's basically the 2 platforms that move like that with a bar in between.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And that's yeah.
You'll have to like show me what that is afterwards. I'm interested. And so, musician, philosopher, and skater.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Also, I saw Zach. Do you unicycle? I saw a random video of you like unicycling on the unofficial group.
Yeah, yes, yes, electric unicycles.
Yeah, like we can.
Yeah, that's a hobby of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, just a few months ago, I got a new one. That's not that same one that you saw.
Mhm.
It's the same idea. This one can do about 50 miles an hour.
50
Holy
miles an hour
crap.
on one
50
wheel.
miles per
Like
hour on one wheel.
what?
Yeah.
What happened? What happens when a rock happens?
Well, I mean, luckily the wheel is like this big, so it can handle most. It's not like a longboard or something where you hit a pebble, you're gonna fly off. But
Are you
uh,
are you like propped on top of it, or is it like a you're in the wheel sort of thing?
yeah, well, you're like straddling a wheel. So like if this is the wheel and it's oriented this way, there's a pedal. There's two pedals on each side that you
Yeah.
stand on.
That's fucking insane. I want to see that too. You'll have to show me that. Holy crap. Yeah, and then I think we're about hitting an hour, so I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. But yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any sort of kind of like closing questions I can give. Other than that, yeah, I feel like unfortunately because the internet torpedoed last time, the audience that we would have had is maybe a little bit smaller than it would have been. But
It's fine.
yeah,
We
I
can
don't know.
post it to the group, try to get some views.
Yeah, for sure. Is there also, if there's any other questions kind of like that any of us would have for each other on that before we kind of close up? Other than that, yeah.
I have a question. What do you guys feel is your biggest takeaway from OP for you personally? That way I can incorporate it into me because I assume there's some similarity. Even if
Hmm.
Dave and Shannon are completely full of shit, they're tracking something.
Sure.
There's something similar. So what would your insight be towards what have you learned about yourself since you got your type that might be helpful to someone else?
I think the most for me, the thing that any other takeaways of something like the masculinity of my animals is, whatever, it's not really that important, or like certain things, it's seeing within myself how addicted I am to the reset. I think of, and seeing that in so many aspects of, and it is in a way it sucks because it's sort of an obvious conclusion, but how much the little tiny bits of things that I need to do add up, and how much, and how in a lot of ways, another thing being consumed sleep, is I tend to have this idea that I can do everything myself. So there is that idea of the thing that I'm constantly running away from is building my world with other people. Because I can do a little bit of the building myself and it's fine and I'll be on my own. But as soon as it comes to having to work with other people and get them on board with things, on top of narrowing down in an identity that I don't want to do, that's the real pain point for me. So I feel like with objective personality, or at least with that was probably the biggest takeaway I got, is at least just having a full awareness of how much that I kind of flee from the idea of working with other people and narrowing down on things. Yeah.
Either of y'all have any other thoughts? Because I know Zach, you don't really buy into it, right?
My personal typing, not quite.
What about the system itself?
The system itself, I think is actually pretty solid. I think there's, I mean, if it were me, there's probably a few things that I would add and reconsider. But um,
Mhm.
we could make the argument there's a bunch of TI stacking there that maybe isn't needed for what OP is doing, but for what OP is doing, I think it's a really cool system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you in objective personality, you see yourself as TISE.
Yeah, more or less.
Would you have the same animal stack? Do you think, like consume, sleep, play, blast?
I would be more likely to say play last.
Play last. Okay, interesting. And that would put you at, because yeah, I was sitting there thinking about that, like because I had thought you were you thought of yourself as TISE and then that stuck, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't see an irresponsibility towards NF, I guess. But then that would be, in that case, it'd be NETE, or no, it'd be, sorry, no, it'd be SEFE, so it'd be SF last. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Jess?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say the same thing that Dallas said about just like small amounts of progress will like help you like
Mhm.
improve massively over time.
Yeah, the kind of compounding interest of doing things a little bit at a time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Can
All
I
right,
ask
guys.
one fun question,
Go for it.
Dallas?
Yeah, what's the one fun question?
Just, if you could disagree with just one coin, which one would you pick?
For myself?
Yeah, like if you think Dave and Shan got you wrong,
On what
and you don't
aspect?
have to think that they did, but which one do you think doesn't seem right?
Observer decider.
Observer.
I got some really big DI grudges sometimes, and I can be very me against the world.
I relate to that a lot.
Yeah, I think that was my biggest shock. I think when I got my type back, because I read it and I flipped the order of it in my head and I saw FENE or FINE and I'm like, fuck, like, yeah. But yeah, I thought I was an IP. I tend to be, I know I tend to be very not selfish, but I tend to consider my own perspective, and I'm very fearful of speaking for other people, and I fall so much back on my own perspective, and I have so many like kind of like me against the world isms. So, and I don't think I traditionally fit the like the don't control me bro archetype. If anything that I do with don't control me bro, it's more when somebody frames a premise incorrectly, I will needle it because I don't want to go forward on a premise I don't agree with, because then it's like somebody else could like box me in to like just something something I fundamentally don't agree with. So I think that's maybe more of where I'll be like, don't control me, bro. But the addictiveness to consume, for sure.
I think for me, it's I would say I have higher play than, I feel like I might be consume play instead of
Mhm.
consume sleep play. Just I agree with the energy dom, but it's like
Yeah.
I think that they typed me. What I guess I would say is my personal issue with OP is that the animals seem like they could change based off of your life stage. And so I feel like when I was younger, I had more play in me, and when I'm older, I'll have more blast in me. And so my perceived animal order would change with time depending on when you typed me, depending
Yeah.
on what things I've worked on, what things I've. And so I feel the same way about feminine versus masculine sensory. I think that's just trained versus untrained memory. If you don't have a trained memory, you're going to have feminine sensory. If you have a trained memory, you're going to have more masculine sensory.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah, I on that one, I definitely see my intuition as masculine. I can be kind of a dick about it.
No, I totally
whereas
agree.
whereas just kind of like this,
I
like,
don't disagree.
where it's like, you didn't see that? It's so obvious. Like, come on, just skip some steps, buddy.
Yeah, and I hate that I'm like that. That's something about myself that I actually dislike. That I'm a know-it-all in that way.
Yeah,
Like, oh, don't you see what's going on? Like, I hate that I'm like that.
yeah, because, well, for me is I'll be able to see something coming and I'll be able to skip a lot of steps, but I can't dance in the moment to explain to people why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. So I'll be articulate, but everything that I'm articulate on is pre-processed. And if I'm caught in the moment, I tend to porky pig, just like babble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, let's see. I had something I was wanting to say. Yeah, and then I think this isn't like an issue about my own like typing or anything, but I just think the modalities are the weakest aspect of objective personality. But I think that's pretty well understood. That, I mean, so like when you'll say something as like FF versus FM, there's no reason why the flavor of your deciding function should have anything to do with how you perceive the world, like from a not judging perspective. That's kind of what FF and FM would be arguably the same amount of visual to me, and then kinesthetic and audio would just basically be off masculine sensing. And I don't even know necessarily how much I agree with that, but yeah.
I never understood why they gave him those names or any of that in general. Like,
Mhm.
I guess I'm saying I've never understood in the sense of like I don't get it, but I can see them individually. I've never been able to really understand them paired. Like my brother, he's so much better at the sexuals than me because he can see the pairings
Mhm.
and like how that he's like really, bro, you think they have double masculine blast ST, really? Like, are they doing that really? And it's like I didn't even think about it that way. They just seemed to put their thoughts on a timeline and and didn't have good
Mhm.
visual recall, and then they seemed to be or and then they seem to be, pushing on other people. But I guess I just really don't get them together and what it kind of looks like in the like I really like to focus on like overtones. When you take two or three seemingly disparate things, what is the over overtone that emerges? And that's probably because I'm a musician, right? And I think of things through music. And so I'm like, what is the overtone here? And the sexuals is something I've never really seen the overtone play out the way that it's been explained to me that it should play out.
Mhm.
Like what the only I once even Shan said the thing about sissy syndrome, I was like, okay, I get a little bit of that. I understand a little bit of like, I don't want to change a tire. Like, okay, yeah, I am like that. But how do I see a bunch of like how do I type with that? How do I use that to help me? Like, you just have to wait till people get into scenarios where they go, and then just say, okay, that's their double feminine, or what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I found that looking at archetypes of people, or seeing, like, looking at multiple people who should allegedly have the same type, you'll see certain emergent things that come out of it, versus kind of like, I don't know, like very very recently I think I've gotten very good at seeing the way that feminine TE presents itself in women specifically, because that is another huge coin that doesn't really come up, is being the gender that you were raised as, um, which is going to dramatically change kind of your disposition and the way you view the world. But I think having a bunch of examples of, in that one, feminine TE, and how it presents in women, or just kind of like, in a savior state, it's hard to really explain, but it's helped me kind of like pick when it comes out. But it's just been repetition. Because, like, from a conceptual perspective, like, I got OP like instantaneously, like just like flipping things around in animal orders, and that's not a big deal to me. But the practice of typing has definitely been a little challenging. There are some people that have gotten 100. Like I got Sacha Baron Cohen 100, but that's just, I can see any FI trolling like really easily in that guy.
I got Koi Fresco and I got Bo Burnham really really close. I don't know if I got Bo Burnham. I think I did TINE, but that was my only coin off. And then
Mhm.
with Koi Fresco I got 100%, and I've gotten a few other really close ones like the Billie Eilish. I think most people were one coin off on that chick,
Mhm.
FISE instead of TISE.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of ones where it's just like one or two coins off. And so I feel really confident using it in my daily life. But I've also caught myself seeing one thing based off of my biases or something, and then my brother being able to see it more objectively because he's a sensing savior, and like calling me out like, no, dude, that's you're way off on that. And then like actually listening to him and seeing that he's right, and that
Mhm.
like my biases are just that off. And it's always very like it throws me off like that I'm wrong. Not in the
Yeah.
sense of like I'm wrong. I'm wrong all the time, but I'm not usually wrong about my conclusions. I'm usually wrong about what I build my conclusions on, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think since we're about 15 minutes over, I'm gonna end the
Oh,
stream here. If you guys want to stay on restream and chat, I'm down. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on and talking, and this was fun.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
See ya.